Okay. So this is one of the lessons that I've learnt out of as you get old, that design is not necessarily the criteria of the young. Um, Teaching design or talking about design is often a process of education with a lot of people in life, so you learn to accept that. The other strange thing that I never expected in old age is that many of the values that I was throwing out in my 20s, such as bad fabric designs and funny designs in wrought iron and all the rest of it, are now seen as super cool by young people and young designers. And that I never expected. People keep showing me new ranges of Knoll fabrics and stuff from America and that. And I'm looking at the stuff that my grandmother had and that I was busy throwing out in the 1950s and 60s as we tried to invent a new way of looking at design. So the lesson from all this, for everybody who listens to this, is that everything keeps perpetually turning round in circles. So don't think that you're going to reinvent the wheel, because you're not. In design, everything is really a reinvention on what has already been. Now it's good. The screen's gone shadowy again. That's it. So those, I think, are the two lessons that you learn. The third lesson you learn out of design is that do not think that because you may be creative or clever at design that you're going to be discovered and that people are going to give you a lot of work. It's not so. When I designed Fletcher House back in the mid-60s, I thought that there would be people would beat a path to my door and say, "Oh, what wonderful interiors you've done. You're the first person to have transformed an office building in New Zealand into something new and fresh." I thought people would just beat a path to my door, but it just simply never happened. In the design world, as in most worlds, you're only as good as the people you know. In other words, your communication contacts are what matter, not how clever you are as a designer or as a person with specific talent. You are only as good as the communication structure that you've built up over the years. So do not sit down and think, well, I'm a very clever designer and people are just going to come knocking on my door, because it simply won't happen. You have to go out there and sell yourself all the time. And that means you do the door knocking, not the other way around. Those are probably the three lessons that design has taught me all over the years. Now, on design itself, one of the problems in New Zealand is that we do tend to have a mentality where we put everything on the plate. We've got this thing called sort of Kiwiana South Pacific cooking sort of school of thought, which means adding oysters and kiwi fruit and steak all on the same plate, and we think there's something quite unique about all this. Well, of course, that's all baloney. At the end of the day, design is about simplicity. The simpler the better, and you really need to approach everything in design with two factors in mind. You keep it monastic and you keep it functional. If it's very functional, then the monastic should follow. Beware of embellishment. Embellishment usually is short shift. So that's one of the great lessons of design. It's important to think function in everything you do. I can remember a few years ago, I had 36 people working for me in a design business, and young designers used to come and join the company after going through university, and you'd ask them to do a simple job like, here's a plan, I want this quickly done, can you design a new desking system for this guy or a new desk for this guy, and set him up. And I'd come back 3 days later and find that they'd done 3 feasibility studies of how people could go around and have access to this area. And I would take the kid and I'd take him out to a factory and explain, this is how we do it. And I'd draw what I want on a bit of a piece of 4x2, and the guy in the factory would get on and make it, because that's all I needed. So beware of over designing the function of the purpose. If someone tells you to knock something up quickly, get on and do it. Don't stand around with feasibility studies. It's a waste of time and energy. How's all that?
That's perfect.
Is that? That gives you enough, doesn't it? With some...
Thank you.